Well, howdy, folks. It's 7:30 p.m. CST on the 18th of September in 2021, and it's time for another lovely episode of Cast Talks. And welcome on back. Cast Talks is a little show that we do on Saturdays where we hang out for 2 hours and just take some time to relax. The relaxation that we do here is mostly kind of a half meditation, half ASMR sort of thing. And generally, we just kind of share stories, talk and chat, and read good news. And we do some animal videos every now and again, too. But generally, we just hang out for a little while. So I hope that you will join me in doing just that. So let's get started. Today we have some fairly good news stories that I'll share with you right now. Just a bit of a sneak peek. We have moths, rippled forewings, are actually a sophisticated defense system against echolocation. Oxygen therapy may slow the hallmarks of Alzheimer's, according to new study. Doberman dog nurses tiny abandoned kitten alongside her pups. Premature baby, born so small she was kept alive in a sandwich bag, has defied the odds to start school. One of our last ones. Italy is protecting its giant trees forever. Monumental trees that can live for centuries. So that's just a little bit of the good news that we'll be doing. But as a little bit of a follow-up for stuff going on with me this week, I'm usually working really hard to promote good mental health and promote things going well for other people and myself. Something that I have run into trouble with is every now and again I do have setbacks, and I did have a fairly substantial setback this week, which doesn't necessarily mean I've lost progress or that I'm in some way failing, but it's always difficult to hear bad news, especially when it involves something very close to you that you value very much. And for a little while, it looks like it may, in fact, be that way for me. But it's alright. Sometimes, whether you can change how you're doing or how you feel, sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's more about just accepting either reality or accepting the thoughts that other people have of you. You can't control that as much as you might want to. But I have a story for you. So my story involves the time that I spent working at a pizza place. Working at a pizza place, you see behind the scenes, more than enough. You see people breaking the rules and taking shortcuts and cutting corners. You see all sorts of things, and you can get sloppy or lax. Every now and again, it can really be easy to lose your grasp on your professionalism. That's happened to me a few times. But something that I fought through, something that I learned about myself, is that there are behaviors and, I guess you could say, interesting things that people do when they'd like to have a good time, of course, but when they're stressed or when they're having problems. Right? something that happened to me was that I was very upset with having to actually go to work, of all things. I always felt like there was an axe over my head, like I was walking to a guillotine. I was very afraid and very dreaded of actually going in and doing my job, which, to be honest with you, my job wasn't that difficult. I mean, I would just stand at the front counter and ring people up and cash people out and hand out pizzas. Not exactly rocket science, I have to admit. But maybe it's something instilled in me from a sense of foreboding that I happened to develop from going to things like marching band, which unfortunately, marching band is an incredibly difficult thing to do. It's quite time consuming and quite tasking on many of your faculties. We happen to have a very low budget marching band, so we didn't really have a lot of stuff we could use to keep us comfortable during our practices, so it was a very grueling thing, to be honest. Still, I got through it, but perhaps it's clear that there can be real problems with having kind of a low budget experience when it comes to something so important as staying out of the sun or the rain, or having access to sunscreen, or having access to quality of life things. That was definitely not a priority for them. What can you say, though? I mean, sometimes you have to focus on what you can do, and they couldn't they couldn't make that work as much as it would have helped me. At the time, I was kind of the accepting and unquestioning sort, which I do feel pangs of regret for. It's unfortunate. But hey, those are the past mistakes that I've made, and I know very clearly that I'm not that person anymore. Hopefully I can make fewer mistakes like that in the future. But let's get on to some good news. We talked about this one already. Moth's rippled forewings are actually a sophisticated defense system against echolocation. This one's by Andy Corbley from September the 13th. The folds and ripples at the front of a moth's forewings are a sophisticated defense system against the echolocation of hunting bats in the darkness, a new study reveals. Moths have developed several forms of sonic decoys to throw hunting bats off their scent. But a thorough examination done at the University of Bristol has shown the decoys developed on the forewing tips have a unique success rate. Bats create ultrasonic clicks with their mouths that bounce off of objects in the dark and return to be picked up by their hyper-developed auditory organs, giving them a picture of the world around them. Luna moths have been known to develop long, gown-like hindwings with screwed-up tips. It's been shown that these hindwings are very strong reflectors of sound. such that it's actually more likely a bat would end up attacking the decoy rather than the vulnerable body of the moth. Some large silk moths, though, like the atlas moth or the Alanthus silk moth, have rippled and folded tips on their forewings, which have been revealed as the superior method of defense. We noticed that on many of the larger silk moths, the forewing tips are actually folded and rippled in a way not too dissimilar to the hindwing decoys we looked at earlier, said Thomas Neal, a bioacoustics researcher at School for Biological Sciences, Bristol, U. He and his colleague, Mark Holderade, bombarded the wings of an atlas moth with different frequencies of ultrasonic sound from over 10,000 directions to test how well it might reflect the clicks from a hungry bat. The results published in Current Biology were that forewing folds and ripples bounced off incoming sound, releasing it back into the environment in 180 degrees around the wing. This made them more reflective of sound, and therefore a better sonic defense, even than the hindwing decoys used by the Luna moths. The folds reflected the sound by sending it into a series of 90-degree angles within the fold, which the ripples acted as hemispheric reflectors of sounds like a bowl or an amphitheater. Another benefit of the decoys being in the forewings is that they are rigid in structure, and so any bad attacks would likely knock a moth off of its flight path rather than damage the wing. Another fascinating detail of this already fascinating evolutionary defense system is that it may have evolved independently more than 4 times across the entire Saturniidae genus, and 36 of the 72 species Neal and Holderade examined had either folded or rippled forewings, yet never together with a wing decoy. Perhaps because 2 decoys being present at each end of the moth might clue the bat into the fact that something of interest might be in the middle. It's a perfect example of nature's ability to pair graceful form with life-saving function. Ooh, there's a video below. Alright, let's check out that video. There we go. Let's check this out. Let's skip to the good parts. No, this is just people talking. It's not a lot of bat content or moth content. No, never mind. Not that interesting after all. So on to the next one. Mexico led the way for 7 U.S. states to cooperate in sharing water amid the 22-year drought. By Andy Corbley from September the 13th. The story of the Southwest suffering under the second driest period in 1,200 years is being turned into another one of cooperation and dedication to preserving as much water as possible. Lake Mead, the site of the Hoover Dam, and the chief water resource of a sprawling series of desert communities and metropolises, is falling. But revealed in its falling to the lowest levels ever recorded is not only the bathtub ring of calcium buildups seen here, but decades of cooperative drought contingency planning and water conservation infrastructure implemented not only through the 7 states that rely on the Colorado River Basin and Lake Mead, but Mexico too. It was in 2007 that the 7 states of California, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, and Wyoming, as well as many tribes and Mexico, all agreed on a framework for use of the mighty Colorado River and Lake Mead. But in the face of the current 22-year drought, which led the federal government last Monday to declare the first ever shortage of water from Lake Mead, something more had to be done. After years of tough negotiations, each state agreed to share the burden of future potential water shortages, pursuant to the 2019 Drought Contingency Plan. As Lake Mead is expected to drop below a depth of 1,075 feet next year, the first round of water cuts will come into effect in the states of Nevada and Arizona, and for Mexico. At 1,445 feet, it would be California's turn to take a cut. We haven't had litigation. If you look at any other river basin, they have litigation going like crazy. Patricia Aaron, spokeswoman for the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, told the Christian Science Monitor, "Everybody is in this together. It gives me a lot of hope and a lot of confidence. There are a lot of dedicated, smart people working on this problem." Mexico, for their part, led the way in a bilateral contingency plan in 2017. Under current agreements, Mexico is delivered at minimum 1.5 million acre feet of the total volume of the Colorado River every year. We knew it was the correct thing to do. CSM also heard from Roberto Salmon, former Mexican commissioner of the International Boundary and Water Commission. We are all trying to save the Colorado River Basin. The livelihood of millions of people depends on it, including Mexico. Several states have already invested millions into ensuring that when a water shortage in the Colorado or Lake Mead did arrive, they wouldn't be caught out. In Nevada, for example, Las Vegas recently described a 7 billion gallon reduction in water use from Lake Mead as having little impact. This is a result of a sophisticated water recycling that sends spent water back to Lake Mead, as well as the use of ornamental desert foliage for public parks and real estate. In California, which draws about 3 times as much water as Mexico, water authorities built up reserves during the wet years of 2017 and 2019, while implementing additional storm drain and wastewater recovery methods to boost supply. The 17 million people living in Southern California now use 40% less water than they did in 1990, CSM reports. Arizona has also banked water in Lake Mead, pre-delivering a 50% store of its yearly share through savings accumulated over a decade of diversifying its supply. For example, by drawing on the Salt and Verde rivers. Phoenix, which has exploded in size over the past 2 decades, has also reduced water consumption by 30%. South of the border, Mexico's agreement to be first on the chopping block for cuts from Lake Mead was penned alongside promises from California, Nevada, and Arizona to invest $31.5 million in conservation and infrastructure projects in the Mexicali Valley, which will have 200,000 acre-feet of water per year. This U.S. citizen is accustomed to feeling there was no plan in the aftermath of natural disasters or dangerous natural phenomena, but in the deserts of the Southwest, that is certainly not the case, and the inter-cooperation between state, tribe, city, and nation is something to behold. Lovely. Yeah, I used to live in California, so I'm actually pretty familiar with the irrigation well, specifically in SoCal, there was this huge canal right behind my house, and me and a pet earlier in my life would go adventuring down there. That was a really important time in my life, actually, and I do remember feeling very empowered, and I mean, it's a little scary, right, because there's so much there, but at the same time, it is also amazing to think that it was built by a human. You know, it was a feat of nature created by somebody's brainchild of ideas and calculations. And that certainly interests me. So here's another one. Huge field is planted with more than 100,000 sunflowers to read the word hope. Oh, I see that. Let me show this to you guys, in case you're interested. I'm not sure if you can see the actual word hope there, but it's kind of there. The stunning drone pictures show a huge field filled with more than 100,000 sunflowers planted to read the word hope. The breathtaking field at Ardross Farm in Scotland spans 1.5 hectares, the size of 4 football pitches, and recently came into bloom 5 months after it was planted. Reverend Douglas Crichton from East Nuke Trinity Church came up with the idea for a sunflower field in a bid to bring people joy. He asked farmer Claire Pollock to help get it off the ground, and she agreed to planting more than 100,000 sunflowers at the start of May. The pair hope the maze will bring joy to the local community, with 500 people walking through when it was opened last weekend. It takes 20 minutes to complete the huge maze, and $2,000 has already been raised for local charities. Reverend Crichton said the project is something bright and cheerful for everyone in the community. We sowed a bit of hope and optimism to show it's not all doom and gloom. I even hosted a live planting during recent events where people joined in on Zoom Watch. Farmer Claire said, "We've always grown wildflowers to help the birds and spread a bit of cheer, saying it's been great to do something that would make people smile and could get local people involved. It's a maze of hope and a field of hope, and we want it to be something fun and different." Lovely. Some of the flowers that have been growing outside of my window have been improving a little bit as well, which I'm quite happy with. I feel quite good about that. In fact, I'm relatively, I get feelings of satisfaction when looking at my plants, because they did come from almost nothing. And yet, with a little bit of attention every day, they've bloomed just like anything else would. And that's certainly something special. So, the greatest technological hurdle to making nuclear fusion possible, the magnet, just powered up, by Andy Corbley from September the 13th of 2021. The superconducting magnets, which could be a key to powering an efficient nuclear fusion reactor, were just turned on in the labs of an American firm. Commonwealth Fusion Systems generated an electric field of 20 Tesla, the most powerful ever created on Earth, 50,000 times stronger than the magnetosphere, for 5 hours. This gave scientists at CFS the confidence to say that a working prototype at their fusion reactor could be ready by 2025. A huge leap forward from a government paper that reckoned on a 2040 arrival time. It's pretty big. Nuclear fusion is perhaps the world's most dynamic engineering challenge, and the magnets are one method by which humans may be able to make it work. With them, CFS believe the reactors of the future could be small and dramatically cheaper than the billions Western governments are currently spending on fusion projects. The goal of any reactor is to create a plasma, the fourth state of matter, which is essentially a superheated gas. The heavy isotopes inside a hydrogen atom, deuterium and tritium, are heated inside the reactor to hundreds of millions of degrees until they convert to helium. The energy they give off is converted to electricity. If such a powerful machine can produce more electricity than it uses, unlimited clean energy can be achieved, which means it doesn't matter if the sun is shining or the wind is blowing. It means coal, oil, and gas can all remain in the ground, that never again would a war be fought over oil resources, and that global climate change could be rapidly scaled back. In fact, the CFS Research and Development Team boasts that their reactor will be able to turn a glass of water into the electricity usage of one human for their entire lifetime. Gosh. I don't know about that. Superconducting magnets make achieving those extreme temperatures much easier. 18 of the CFS magnets will be arranged like a big metal donut to create pressures in the fusion chamber known as a tokamak. Lurking while you play games with the kids, well, lovely. I hope the kids are doing great, and I'm glad that you showed up to comment. Known as a tokamak, of up to 2 times as much as the deepest point in the ocean. This immense squeezing causes the immense heat needed for fusions to occur. 3 years ago, we announced a plan to build a 20 Tesla magnet, which is what we will need for future fusion machines, says Bob Mumgaard, CFO at CFS, in a story to the MIT University Press. We now have a platform that is both scientifically very well advanced, because of the decades of research on these machines, and also commercially very interesting. What it does is allow us to build devices faster, smaller, and at less cost. The magnets are wrapped with 300 kilograms, which is 660 pounds, of superconducting tape made from a barium copper oxide. The tape has taken decades to develop, and when cooled to negative 253 degrees Celsius, which used to take a refrigerator the size of a house, it removes all the natural barriers to superconductivity and can easily handle nearly all of the 40,000 amps passing through the tokamak at one time, and very efficiently. All of this work and the successful test means that CFS can begin work on their Spark, a sort of miniature version of a full-scale nuclear fusion plant. The facility to house the Spark is already under construction. So here's an MIT video about this, which is going to be probably a little crazy for all of us to understand, but model of coiler magnet being tested is made up of 16 submagnets that are stacked inside a structural case. The case is inserted into a test stand that replicates the conditions inside a tokamak. Here it is cooled to near absolute zero. The 20K, the magnet becomes superconducting and can accept large amounts of gas, reach a magnetic field. The magnet is similar in size and construction to the magnets that will be used. There, okay. Oh my gosh. This makes me think of Factorio. My brother was really good at Factorio, but he doesn't play anymore. Well, it's not really. Gosh, fusion reactions. That's something crazy. So, assuming that we could get a fusion reactor going, right? Just assuming. What that might mean for the world is we would sort of enter into a kind of next phase of human history. To some degree, we would be completely free from the need for something like a regular diesel generator, or they said coal, which coal's very widely used in places like China and Japan in their rural areas, and still here too, I'm sure, in the United States. But I still have a difficult time believing that fusion can solve that problem quite so quickly. Certainly the idea of just a giant sort of wire going across the United States from a single fusion core or fusion reactor is interesting. I still have my doubts about something like that working, just because of how crazy complicated and crazy, I guess you could say, it sounds. But technology does advance very, very quickly, a lot quicker than people thought it would. And this is just an example of that. But one thing that I do hope for in the future of, technology in general, but technology in video games, I think it'd be nice if that improved to the point where, and I'm only bringing up anime this one time because it is sort of relevant to the subject. Having like an anime style thing where it's like, you put on a helmet and you're in a video game or something, and it's the same as if you were in a video game, or if you were there in real life, whatever. It's similar, and that kind of thing, right? That kind of altered reality or virtual reality, whatever you would call that. Certainly, it appeals to me. That technology seems pretty far away from us right now. But already, you can see the beginning of that sort of thing. All I can tell you is I won't be the first person to try out that virtual reality stuff. I'll give it maybe a year or two, just to make sure it's on the up and up. But maybe someday, right? Maybe someday. So here's one. Cows are being potty trained to save the planet. Animal-loving researchers are moved by the results. By Great News Network from September the 14th of this year. On a farm where cows freely relieve themselves as they graze, the accumulation and spread of waste often contaminates local soil and waterways. This can be controlled by confining the cows in barns, but in these close quarters, their urine and feces combine to create ammonia, an indirect greenhouse gas. In an article published on September the 13th in the journal Current Biology, researchers show that cows can be potty trained, enabling waste to be collected and treated, thereby cleaning up the barn, reducing air pollution, and creating more open, animal-friendly farms. It's usually assumed that cattle are not capable of controlling their defecation or urination, says co-author Jan Langbein, an animal psychologist at the Research Institute for Farm Animal Biology, the FBN apparently, in Germany. But he and his team questioned this, thinking, cattle, like many other animals or farm animals, are quite clever and they can learn a lot. Why shouldn't they be able to learn how to use a toilet? Gosh. Galaxy brain at work. To potty train the calves, a process they dubbed Mulu training. Oh man. The research team, with scientists from FBN, FLI, and the University of Auckland, worked backward. They started off by rewarding the calves when they urinated in the latrine, and then they allowed the calves to approach the latrines from outside when they needed to urinate. The ammonia produced in cow waste doesn't directly contribute to climate change, but when it is leached into the soil, microbes convert it to nitrous oxide, the third most important greenhouse gas after methane and carbon dioxide. Agriculture is the largest source of ammonia emissions, with livestock farming making up over half of that contribution. You have to try to include the animals in the process and train the animals to follow what they should learn, says Longbean. We guessed it should be possible to train the animals, but to what extent, we didn't know. To encourage latrine use, the researchers wanted the calves to associate urination outside the latrine with an unpleasant experience. As a punishment, first we used the in-ear headphones and played a very nasty sound when they urinated outside, says Longbane. We thought this would punish the animals, not too aversively, but they didn't care. Ultimately, a splash of water worked well as a gentle deterrent. So they didn't care about the noise? That's very strange. Over the course of a few weeks, the research team successfully trained 11 out of the 16 calves in the experiment, which has been published in Current Biology. Remarkably, the calves showed a level of performance comparable to that of children and superior to that of very young children. Well, gosh. Langben is optimistic that with more training, this success rate can be further improved. After 10, 15, 20 years of researching with cattle, we know that animals have a personality and they handle different things in different ways. They are not all the same. Now that the researchers know how to potty train cows, they want to transfer their results into real cattle housing and to outdoor systems. Longbane hopes that in a few years, all cows will go to a toilet, he says. Nice. Very nice. Here's another good one. Abandoned airport turned into sensory experience park, providing green refuge in a crowded Taiwan city, by Andy Corbley from September the 14th of 2021. An abandoned airport in Taiwan has been chosen as the stage for an exciting project in landscape architecture, blending green spaces with sensory experiences to create a refuge in one of the island's biggest and most crowded cities. The Phase Shift Park in Taichung will include 200 different plant species and 10,000 trees to shade residents from humidity. But the real spectacle will be 12 urban landscape installations, corresponding with the philosopher Rudolf Steiner's principle of the 12 senses. Taichung's air isn't actually that bad, as most neighborhoods are labeled as good on the World Air Quality Index. However, just sitting beneath the Tropic of Cancer and warmed by the Kuro Shio, one of the largest marine currents on Earth, the hot, humid, and sticky air can be stifling in the summertime, holding water vapor and toxic particulates from car exhaust down near the ground. The trees were chosen to offer maximum shade and are built alongside winding lanes going from north to south, and through unique installations that play on Steiner's senses of speech, taste, hearing, equilibrium, thinking, vision, movement, ego, touch, warmth, smell, and life. Passing through the park, there's a lake designed specifically to create lifelike echoes, and a field of flowers cultivated specifically to envelop an intoxicating curtain of perfumes. Designed by French architecture firm Mosbach, Paysageist, the topography was carefully designed to maximize water permeation during the wet monsoon season. Underneath the soil lies complex flood control and irrigation measures that will ideally allow the rains to refuel the trees year-round. The concept art and preliminary images show a futuristic landscape rather than a natural oasis. Steiner believed that the world is, folks, you're sorry to be late. Well, no, it's okay, Playful. I'm glad you're here and all. I hope that you've had a lovely week. And I hope that you have too, Anna. I'm sorry I forgot to ask. I'm glad that you could both make it. It's fascinating, and it's a fascinating guide with which to express something experiential like a park, and one which speaks to the breadth of our potential to connect with nature even in somewhere as dense as the urban center of Taichung. Lovely. So here's a good one. Oxygen therapy may slow the hallmarks of Alzheimer's, according to new study. This is by Good News Network from the 15th of September of this year. A team of investigators has succeeded in restoring brain trauma by hyperbaric oxygen therapy. This is the first time in the scientific world that non-drug therapy has been proven effective in preventing the core biological processes responsible for the development of Alzheimer's disease. Using a specific protocol to hyperbaric oxygen therapy, cerebral blood flow increased, and it was shown in elderly patients to have this improvement by 16 to 23%, alleviating vascular dysfunction and amyloid burden. The study from Tel Aviv University, part of the comprehensive research program directed toward aging and accompanying ailments as a reversible disease, holds promise for a new strategic approach to the prevention of Alzheimer's by addressing not only the symptoms or targeting the biomarkers, but rather the core pathology and biology responsible for the development of the disease. Hyperbaric medicine is a form of therapy that requires patients to be kept in special chambers in which the atmospheric pressure is much higher than that normally experienced at sea level. In addition, they breathe air composed of 100% oxygen. Hyperbaric medicine is considered safe and already serves to treat an extensive list of medical conditions. In recent years, scientific evidence has been indicating that unique protocols of hyperbaric therapy are capable of inducing repair of damaged brain tissue and renewed growth of blood vessels and nerve cells in the brain. The first stage of the study, published in Aging journal, was carried out on an animal model, in the course of which it was proven conclusively through examination of brain tissues that a certain therapeutic protocol brings about an improvement in vascular function and the creation of new blood cells. It also prevents the deposit of new amyloid plaques on the brain cells and even leads to the removal of existing amyloid plaque deposits. Amyloids are non-soluble proteins. Deposits of such proteins in the brain are connected with severe degenerative conditions such as Alzheimer's disease. At the next stage, the effects of the treatment were examined for people above the age of 65 with cognitive decline, with an emphasis on memory loss, a stage preceding Alzheimer's and dementia. The therapy included a series of 60 sessions of HBOT unique in pressure chambers over a period of 90 days. The effects on the brain were evaluated by high-resolution perfusion MRI. The hyperbaric treatment protocol gave rise to increased blood flow in the range of 16 to 23%, significantly improved in memory by 16.5% on average, with significant improvements in attention and information processing speed. Dr. Ronan Shapira said the combination of an animal model from which we could learn the pathology of the disease, together with existing and available therapies, raises the hope that we will now be able to fight one of the greatest challenges to the Western world. According to our findings, hyperbaric therapy given at a young age is likely to prevent this disease entirely. Wow. So I had no idea that this was even a thing. This is completely new to me. Actually, I knew about hyperbaric. I didn't know what it could do, though, if you know what I mean. I didn't know it could perform and create such like an amazing improvement on the body. So, here's one. Oh, but my good friend Y, her baby sister of all things, suffers from the beginning stages of Alzheimer's, and it's very sad. But you knew it was used for something, just had zero idea what that was. It's true. I've heard of hyperbaric chambers before, and I've heard of what is called a hyperbaria pressure and stuff like that. I don't think, that might not be the right term for it, but I had heard of that sort of thing before. It's not something you can easily forget. It's a very unique sounding word, hyperbaric, but being a preemptive treatment and sort of like a safeguard against Alzheimer's and degenerative brain disorders, I had no idea that was even possible to do that. And we may still have a generation of people that are going to have to suffer with Alzheimer's, but pretty soon it might be like, oh, you are suffering from early stages, so go into this thing for like once every day or so, and it'll basically go away, or it'll be so minimal that you won't notice it for a long time. That's a huge amount of hope compared to like, oh, you have it, well, just start getting ready, which is the case for so many people. It's like, oh, well, you have it, so get ready, because it's gonna suck. Company sells plant-based biodegradable masks and closes the loop with free return of used ones for recycling. This is from Good News Network from the 15th of September. Your dad's mom suffered from it, then passed 21 years ago. Well, that sounds awfully sad. So many people are affected by that, and so many people don't really get any treatment for it because it's sort of seen as like what can you do situation. But that's not the case at all anymore. It's not the case at all. You can do so much. You can do so much for something like Alzheimer's or dementia. There's so much you can do. But I'm very sorry that she went through that. I hope it's not too much of a burden on you thinking about it now. a company that GNN began supporting in 2017 when they were making fashion-forward scarves that filter the air at the level of N95 or higher, has gone above and beyond, producing a new single-use mask that closes the life cycle loop for every wearer concerned about the environment, especially since the landfill wastes have been created by recent events. The company, G95, formerly Bioscarf, is so committed to sustainability, they began developing a special version of their filtration material after seeing the damage that discarded PPE was doing to our oceans. Everything related to the newly developed Ocean Shield mask, from the ear loops to the nose bridge, is made entirely using plant-based PLA materials, which is 100% biodegradable. This includes the bags they ship in, the individual wrappers for each product, and the G95 filtration technology built in. But how they're going beyond is the best part. When you're done with the mask, instead of throwing it away, simply put it in the envelope that it arrived in and mail it back to the company for free, and they'll recycle them into new masks. If any of the masks do happen to reach the landfill or waterway, because they are 100% made out of plant materials, they will fully biodegrade in approximately 90 days. Lab tested and certified, says the company's founder, Carlton Soule, talking with GNN. It's the world's first single-use mask made using 100% plant-based materials. And they will give you a $1 store credit for every Ocean Shield mask that you return for responsible disposal. Also, because Carlton and his co-founder, wife Hazel Soule, are serious about preventing masks from ending up polluting the ocean, you can send them used masks from any other manufacturers and receive a 25-cent in the G95 store credit for each one shipped back. When you receive your shipment, carefully open it by using the tear strip on the bag. Keep your bag because you'll need it to mail back your used masks. At the end of each day, simply put your mask into the bag together with the wrapper it came in. When you've used up all the masks, put them into the bag. Place the enclosed mailing return sticker on the old sticker in the front of the bag, and be sure to fill out the enclosed card with your contact information and write in how many masks you're returning to receive the store credit mentioned earlier. We've spent years developing these and are really passionate about it, says Soule. Given the state of things, it will be a real game changer. During a business trip to China, Carlton Soule became ill, most likely due to complications related to air pollution. As an alternative to wearing an ugly mask to protect himself, he turned to fashion. Back in Atlanta, his wife Hazel came up with the idea to design a product that would bring both a scarf and also a filter. For people traveling outside the US these days, masks are FFP2 rated, and they've been submitted for FFP2 and CE registrations, so you can use them all around the world. Some European airlines may insist on FFP2 rated masks for boarding passengers. The company G95 is currently shipping their products within 1 to 2 days for free, using USPS priority mail in the US, and they now ship internationally over $100 free via UPS. So you can get a discount code here, and I'll type it into chat for you guys in case you're interested. There you go. So we're at the halfway point now. So what that means is we stand up, we stretch out, take a little break, and get something to eat, maybe something to drink, take it easy for a little bit, and come on back after we've done a little bit of stretching and making sure that we're not sitting down for too long. So go grab something good. Come on back here in 5 minutes, and I'll see you then. And we're back. I hope you folks had a nice little break. So, we've got a few more good news to read through, but before that, I have a question for you folks. We're going to look at some animal videos. What are some animals you'd like to see? And there's no wrong answers, trust me. Any animal you'd like at all. Though I will be less interested in showing some animals rather than others. Believe you me. So we'll start with something simple. I've got some animal videos to show you. Yeah, so they're just fine. We've got a goat boy. So I would like very much to go back to the animal shelter sometime, either tomorrow or the day after, but I still have feelings of difficulty imagining going right now. And maybe it's just because I feel so intensely about seeing animals being sad, but it's been difficult for me to enjoy that as much as I'd like to. Hey, at least that goat's getting some good love, though. Aw. You know, I'm not sure if I would be able to, like, what kind of goat dad I would be. I like goats. I have no problems with goats. I feel like they are certainly they're the greatest of all time, I guess you could say, but wow, look at the fur on this one. Aw. They do have a grace to them, don't they? I like mountain goats. Mountain goats are really cool. I love their eyes, too. They've got big old eyes. Goats and octopi have very similar eyes, actually, which I find very bizarre, that their eyes are similar like that. I wonder what the overlap is there. But anyway, I'll read you guys some good news stories while we listen to this in the background. The world's largest floating office opens in Rotterdam, and it's designed for climate change resilience. I've heard about these floating houses and stuff. There was this man who made this strange and bizarre floating island, and he built it from trash and debris, like barrels, plastic barrels, and plastic containers. Basically, everything he would just find lying or floating in the ocean, and right next to the port that he lived in. And he just ramshackled them all together with nets, with buoys, with anything he could find. And he slowly created a wooden frame, like raft style, on top of them to the point where they were so tightly held together that he can actually place dirt on top of that, and then like building materials on top of the dirt. And he made an entire home. Like, I believe it's like a straw hut, or it's like got wood parts to it, but it's not completely wood. It's like he made his own house in the middle of the ocean, not the middle of the ocean, excuse me, off the coast in the port of I'm all mixed up, in the port of this city he was in. And it's bizarre. It's actually bizarre, but I like it. Oh, what a cutie. Oh, it's lovely to see a pooch that looks like it's comfy and relaxing. Give him some time. So this is by Andy Corbley from September the 16th, just a few days ago. The world's largest floating office building opens in the Netherlands, where unsurprisingly will host the offices of the Global Center of Adaptation. Anchored in the harbor of Reenhaven in Rotterdam, both office and organization will make a fighting partnership in the attempts to lessen the impact of climate change on our society, particularly in a country that's below the level of the sea. Floating Office Rotterdam, or FOR, was recently inaugurated by King Willem-Alexander and former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who heads the team taking up residence in the 4,500 square meter, 3-floor office space. Built off prefabricated timbers arranged atop 15 custom-built concrete pontoons, the upper floors feature wraparound terraces to enjoy the view of the city. An overhanging roof shades the interior from the sun. Powering FOR is a 800 square meter array of solar panels hooked up to batteries ashore. It also uses the northerly waters of the Dutch harbor as a heat sink to regulate temperatures in the offices without using climate control. Finally, the offices are fully recyclable after the materials are no longer safe for continued use. We designed our floating office to reflect the values of its inhabitants. The Global Center on Adaptation, writes Powerhouse Company, the architects of the FOR. The Rotterdam-based NGO aims at promoting planning, investment, and technology to mitigate climate change. Oh, look at that husky boy. I love huskies. They're so fluffy. So floof. Oh. Oh, look how happy he is. Oh. Nothing better than a happy dog. Was there a dog in that hole? 2 dogs in that hole. There's more in there. We gotta get them out. Lots of dog escape stuff recently. Living under a home. That's pretty difficult. Doberman dog nurses tiny abandoned kitten alongside her pups. So we're going to suspend this slightly in favor of window capture number 2. In the classic Dr. Seuss children's book, Horton hatches the egg. Lazy bird Maisie finagles hapless Horton the elephant into sitting on an egg she's too bored to hatch, while she flies off to Palm Beach for a frivolous vacation. Says Horton to Maisie, "Me on your egg? That doesn't make sense. Your egg is so small, ma'am, and I'm so immense." But being the faithful elephant he is, he sits down to get the job done nonetheless. When a similar scenario recently unfolded in the upstate New York town of Geneseo, a sizable Doberman pincher named Ruby, who was nursing 6 of her own puppies at the time, had no qualms about adding a new and tiny, freshly born kitten, whose mother was nowhere to be found to help and feed her hungry brood. Ruby's owner, Brittany Callan, breeds Dobermans on her family's farm. Even though the breed is best known for being consummate guard dogs, when she happened on the lost kitty, her thoughts turned to Ruby, whose pups were less than a week old. After a careful introduction, the infant cat, Callan, had named the Ramblin' Rose, settled in next to her adopted siblings for a feed, and Ruby was only too happy to accommodate the extra little mouth. Can cats drink dog milk? Ruby took right to her and didn't seem to mind at all, Callan told the Daily Pause, adding she grew up with small animals and learned to be nice and just lick them and be friendly with everything. She's just an extremely, extremely compassionate dog. While the occurrence of interspecies nursing is rare, it's certainly not unprecedented. Okay, so they can't drink. Okay, they can't drink it. Back in 2020, 2 abandoned Siberian tiger cubs were adopted by a Shar-Pei named Cleopatra at a Russian zoo in the Black Sea resort of Sochi. 2 years later, a determined farm feline from country Offaly, Ireland, took on 3 motherless ducklings and raised them as kin along with her kittens. We read about that, actually. That was in a previous news story we did. Unprecedented or not, Callan believes Ruby's uber-developed maternal instinct is something truly special. She was meant to be a mother to anything, Callan told the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. We've had baby bunnies, guinea pigs, chickens, ducks. Ruby licks them like she's cleaning them, like she's their mother. Since taking over mom duties for Ramblin' Rose, Ruby has started carrying the kitten around by the scruff of the neck and protectively separating her from her puppy litter mates when their behavior gets too rambunctious for the itty-bitty kitty. Under Ruby's loving care, with a little extra nutrition in the form of kitten formula administered by Callan, Ramblin' Rose's weight has gone from 4.37 ounces to 7.27 ounces in the span of 1 week. When Horton's egg finally hatches at the end of his tail, the creature that emerges is part bird and part elephant. Her impressive growth rate notwithstanding, it's not likely that Ramblin' Rose will catch up with her adoptive mom's stature or take up barking, but she might just make someone a pretty fierce guard cat when she's fully grown. Lovely. See, this shows what I know, but I thought that when that cat was nursing those ducks, that they were just going to need other food because it wouldn't work on them. But I guess I'm wrong. I guess a cat can nurse ducks. I mean, what do I know, right? Who's to say that they can't? You gotta rescue those doggos. That dog does not know what's going on. It's confused. It's so new to the world. So small, so tiny. Little small beans. Okay, so we've got a few more good news stories before we're done for the day. Premature baby is born so small she was kept alive in a sandwich bag, and she's defied the odds to start school. This is by Good News Network from September the 16th of 2021. A premature baby, born the size of a bag of sugar and kept alive in a sandwich bag, has defied the odds to start elementary school. Darcy Clegg, who is now 4 years old, weighed just 1 pound 5 ounces when she was born in September of 2016 via an emergency C-section 3 months early. Wow. She did it though, she made it. The little girl had to fight for her life in the neonatal unit at Royal Oldham Hospital, Greater Manchester, until she miraculously came home on the 30th of December after 64 days in the hospital. My gosh. Now, despite everything, she's getting ready to start school in September, and mom, 50-year-old Gil Clegg, couldn't be prouder. Gil, who works as a carer, said, "Darcy is amazing. She was so tiny in that little sandwich bag. I didn't know if she would make it. It's so emotional to see her start school. We've got her uniform and everything ready to go." Gail's pregnancy was smooth sailing until a scan at 28 weeks revealed her baby was not receiving enough blood and there was a placental abnormality. She was immediately rushed to Royal Oldham Hospital for an emergency operation. It was terrifying, Gil said. I wasn't given much hope that she would make it, but she came out crying. Darcy was immediately taken to the neonatal intensive care unit to help her survive the crucial early months. She battled blood transfusions and had to build up strength before she could come home in time for New Year's Eve. She was the best present, Gil said. Since then, Darcy has defied the odds to be a normal, healthy girl. She started walking a bit late, but it was an amazing moment, Gil said. She's a dream. As for Darcy, she can't wait to go to school, saying, I can't wait to go and play with lots of other kids. Oh, well, good on her. So, oh, look at that cat. Oh, look at his big eyes. Oh, what a cutie. I love fluffy cats, especially when they look grumpy and have huge eyes. I just want to hold them and squish them. Kitty bath, hee hee. Fluffy, you're right about that. Look how fluffy he is. Aw. And hello to you. Just try to, I believe I'm talking to Lily, but if not, then I hope whoever is responding is having a lovely day and has had a lovely week. Oh, I was very happy to go to Jeremy's meeting on Thursday. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it a lot. Here's a good one. Man decides to give bone marrow to soothe his depression. Not only did this wasn't written very well, but a man gives away his a transplant for a person who needs bone marrow. Yeah, she's Lily and Claudia too, because she was doing art. We've been here since it started, but Claudia was coloring her design. Okay. Well, I'm more than happy to have you lurking around. No need for you to get into chat unless you want to. But hello, Claudia, and hello to you as well, Lily. I am happy to hear from both of you. But if you want to focus on your drawing, then please focus on that. No bother at all. You're done. Oh, well, go ahead. Post a picture of it in your Discord and I'll take a look, assuming you'd like to. So, here's a good one. Rather than give in to depression, one man chose to fight back in a way that not only changed his life for the better, but it gave a stranger he'd never met a second chance as well. Gage Top had recently moved to Idaho and had part-time custody of one of his kids. Alone and isolated, he admits he was at an all-time low. Looking for something to help him cope with his sadness and feel more connected, Tap signed up as a donor with the National Bone Marrow Registry. I felt like my life wasn't worth very much, so I hoped that I gave myself a chance to put some value to my own life by trying to help somebody extend theirs and continuing to stay on the list. You have to be alive to do that. Tap Today correspondent Carson Daly. Wow. It gave me a sense of value to myself that I didn't previously have. Several months later, Tap got a call to let him know he'd been identified as a match. Tap says since he was raised to help others in need, in any way big or small, he just needed to know where and when his marrow could be harvested for the transplant. The donation was made anonymously. The identity of the recipient didn't matter to Tap. The only thing he cared about was being able to have a meaningful and positive impact on someone's life. But neither he nor the woman his bone marrow was going to could know just how life-changing his donation would turn out to be. Oh, what a fluffy boy. What a big fluffy boy. By the time Tia Jensen was diagnosed with leukemia in 2018, she'd already been dealing with the effects of multiple sclerosis for 2 decades. For this latest health hurdle, she started a course of chemotherapy at the Seattle Cancer Center Alliance and added her name to the waiting list for a bone marrow donor. After the successful transplant procedure, Jensen was stunned to learn that not only had her leukemia gone into remission, but thanks to her newly revitalized immune system, the multiple sclerosis she'd been battling for 20 years was in remission as well. Ecstatic, Jensen wanted to reach out and thank her donor. 2 years and many letters later, Jensen was eventually given Tap's contact information, and the two struck up a correspondence. Though delayed by recent events, they finally met in person on the set of Good Morning America. I've been wanting to meet him for so long. I missed meeting Gage because of the recent events, and I realized that because of Gage, there's a lot of milestones that I won't miss. I'm alive. I'm here. I'm going to be with my family, to be in the memories, Jensen told today's Chanel Jones. A grateful Jensen sees Tap as a true role model. To honor him, and so that more patients might enjoy recovery stories with similar happy outcomes, Jensen has teamed up with Be the Match for an online donor registration event in hopes of inspiring others to follow his example of getting tested and stepping up to donate if and when they're matched. She has high hopes for the initiative. I think we forget too often how kind and big-hearted people are, and I'm so grateful that Gage was willing to just be brave and take that step and share his kindness and marrow and give me a second chance at life, she told Nally. All this was done not knowing a thing about me, and I'm just floored by the charity and the beauty in that. Lovely. And then we've got one story left after that. Oh, look at these cats playing around. I do hope that Ella is doing okay. I'm a little worried for her. Thinking about her recently. Italy is protecting its giant trees forever. Monumental trees that can live for centuries, by Andy Corbley from yesterday. Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen her, it has been. But she's dealing with her periods of lows because of her unfortunate news. But We'll see her again, I'm sure of it. We'll see her here soon, sooner than we think. Big old trees. Are there any living things that speak to us the same way as big old trees? And they always seem to have faces on them. You know what I mean? Trees always have like a face of some kind on them, somewhere. I'm thinking about the Mother Willow from Pocahontas. Italy has ensured through law that every Italian and visitor to the country has the right of happening upon the oldest, gnarliest, and most storied trees in the nation, and thereby having the wonderful feeling of discovery and reverence we get from seeing an ancient tree. The law of the monumental trees of Italy was passed way back in the 20th century and protected 22,000 trees of various sorts: beech, oak, pine, olive, cypress, from harm. The 1939 law described monumental trees as immovable things that have remarkable characteristics of natural beauty, which, as Elisabetta Zevoli, writing for National Geographic, explains, gave a visual emphasis on what was already a vague categorization of the law. One of the most important aspects of monumental trees is not their beauty, but their effect as microecosystems. Their hollows, scars, dead branches, and living ones all play host to a wide variety of species, like insects, mushrooms, birds, and small rodents. It's a good thing, too, as many of the signs of damage or decay, while hardly being pleasing to the eye, provide vital nutrients and shelter for the forest animals, such that in 2013, a better, more representational definition of a monumental tree was passed into Italian law. It's a good thing, too, as many of the monumental trees Zevoli highlights didn't become monumental for their beauty, but for their age. The olive tree in the village of Villastrada in Umbria could be 2,500 years old. That's an old tree. It's a very old tree. But it isn't exactly a looker. Its principal trunk has long since decayed, and the other younger trunks have grown over its lifespan. Another example is the Pontone Beech tree in Abruzzo, which is actually 7 beech trees fused together, wrapped in the same layer of bark. Gosh. Since 2013, over 3,000 new entries have joined the National Monumental Tree Registry. Some are treasured for their beauty, others for their age, yet more are valued for the legend and myth surrounding their lives. The 800-year-old cypress of St. Francis is said to have been planted when returning from a walk. St. Francis of Assisi, trying to burn the walking stick he had just used. When it failed to catch fire, he decided to plant it instead, allegedly saying, "If you do not want to burn, grow up." The cones that fall every year from that tree, located in the convent, are gathered in the hopes that pilgrims who can manage to grow something from its seeds will have a blessed tree. And that is all of our good news stories for the day. All that good news. So, we are getting pretty close to episode 50, and then after that, it's only 2 episodes, or I guess 1 episode away from 52. So, for episode 52, we are going to have a sort of a special thing going on. Unfortunately, I still haven't found anybody I'd like to have as a guest, so that might still be waiting a little bit longer. We'll see how that goes. The cat in the storm drain. He survived. Look at him. What a cutie patootie. But episode 52 is going to be the 1 year celebration. And I'm going to invite as many people as are interested in showing up. It's going to be crazy. Crazy might even be in the chat too. A good friend of mine, who I've actually been in his stream a few times. Though I have to admit, sometimes I share a little too much in his streams. Certainly, it's not the worst thing you could do. I just like sharing, I guess. I can't advertise his stream, unfortunately, because he's not PG, but he understands. But yes, it's a little hard to believe that we are at episode 48 weeks in. After doing this for so long, after spending so much time on Cast Talks, 2 hours a week for 52 weeks. Let's call that over 100 hours. Gosh, over 100 hours of content. My gosh. My gosh. Who knows how far it could go, though, right? That's what I'm always thinking about, how far it could go. I do think about that a lot. Guess I do feel a bit sleepy. Oh wait, okay, so we've been through here before. We've been through this one. Let me look through my little playlist. My little playlist of things. Oh. Pepe Frog, no. We'll look at the snake one. This is a good one. I've watched this one already. Oh, sure. Oh, let me put an art channel up, actually. Here. And then permissions, private channel, add members or roles, the peeps. There we go. There we go. There's an art channel. Just, that's a good, thank you for reminding me that we needed that. Drawn and colored by hand. Aw, Claudia, that is special. I like that a lot. Do you want me to move that for you to create thread? What does that do? Huh, I've never seen that button before. Let's see. Actually, I don't know if I can move that. But it is lovely. It's very lovely. It didn't photograph. Oh no, it photographed just fine. It photographed just fine, actually. I think it looks very good. I haven't colored in a long time. It's actually been almost 2 years exactly since I've colored. You should see the real thing. Oh well, I'm sure it's just as lovely. I'm sure. Buy some crayons. I should. I haven't drawn since I was in the hospital, actually, but that's a story for another day. But yes, it is splendid. Really, it's splendid. And I don't know, I love it. I really do. I have a lovely time here with you folks every week, and it's still something fantastic and splendid to do because I know that there's a small number of people here at the moment, but every episode I do has a chance to change somebody's life. You don't color as well since your hands are messed up, but you still have to do it. I couldn't tell. It looks great to me. You know, you did a great job. Honestly. Gosh, well, yawning and sleepy. That always happens in Cast Talks. Always makes me sleepy. But yeah, a year of this. A year of Cast Talks. Man. Well, I'd like to have a kind of a crazy number of people here in the chat for the 52nd episode. I think that'd be fun. Some part of me finds it difficult to believe it's even been a year, you know? Some part of me is like, I kind of like, you you did all this work, but what do you really have to show for it? But what I really have to show for it is all the wonderful time I've spent and all the wonderful encouragement I've gotten from all of my friends. And I mean, this is a fantastic thing. This is a thing that has a richness to it in a culture. Is that next week? No, next week is the 49th episode. The 52nd episode is on Halloween. 52 is a Halloween episode. Which is strange because the first episode of Cast Talk was actually on Halloween. It'll be December 30th, or October 30th, excuse me. I wonder how cold it'll be. It was so cold. Last October. It was so cold. You'll see if you can get you there. Well, I'd love to have you in any form. Gosh, that dog is glaring. Glaring dog. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Really, I am. I do think, though, that today is going to be a little bit of an early episode. So, we're about an hour 45 in, and I'm a little bit tired, so I'm going to give myself a break. And I think that's going to be it for us today. So, it appears we've come to the end of our time. But I want you guys to know I am very happy that we've gotten to spend this time together. and I hope that we can do so again very soon. Thank you so much for participating, and thank you so much for giving me, the chance, as always, to give you guys a lovely show and to give you a lovely evening. And I hope that not only do you have a lovely evening, but that you also have a safe one, and that you take it easy, and make sure that you sleep tight when you get there. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.